Brian Wilson, Mary Catherine Ham, Brian Neiman, today's newsmakers, and you, the Morning Majority. 105.9 FM. AM 630. WMAL.
8:07 on WMAL. Whole gang's here. Brian Neiman, Mary Catherine Ham, Brian Wilson. Tucker Carlson joins us from the Daily Caller. Big doings in Baltimore this morning. Police have told all the occupiers to get lost, kicked them out. I read on your website this morning, Tucker, I was surprised to see this, that Ralph Nader, of all people, said it's about time for the occupiers to go. He's supporting the crackdowns on the occupiers.
Yeah, well, I mean, or not surprising. I mean, Nader has been doing this for literally 50 years, and I think he knows a pointless movement when he sees one. And I don't think Nader has become conservative or pro-market or anything like that. But, I mean, I think the Occupy movement, at least the physical manifestation of it, has reached the point where it's mostly the homeless, mentally ill, and you know, people who really aren't making a political statement but probably have nowhere else to go, and he recognizes it's counterproductive. I mean, does the average independent voter in America look at a bunch of dirty people hanging around the park and say, you know what, I'm buying into that political program? Probably not.
Yeah.
So I think he's wise to point out it's reached a point of diminishing returns.
Yeah, I drove down there Saturday night, actually. I was in Baltimore, and they're right there in the Inner Harbor. I mean, it really was disgraceful. I mean, it was just dirty, tents up in the middle of, Christmas season. Everybody's, walking around. It just didn't fit. And I think most people
look at it. Well, it's also unfair. Look, they don't own the park.
Of course
they don't have a right to dominate a public square like that and prevent families from walking through it or other people who actually pay taxes from enjoying it. It's totally unfair. It doesn't belong to them. So, I would say a lot of cities, and particularly D.C., which is so disorganized and out of control, as you know, have put up with it way too long. And if our police department weren't so bad, just so epically, world historically bad, they would have moved those people out of McPherson Square a long time ago.
Well, in fairness, I don't think it's the police department. I think if left to their own devices and their own instincts, they would take care of it. But the police department is an arm of the city council and the mayor. And I don't think they have a clue as to what to do or the inclination to do it, Tucker.
Yeah, you may absolutely be right, though Police Chief Kathy Lanier has made a couple statements that I've heard saying, they have a right, this is free speech.
Yeah, but she's got to say that because the boss, the mayor, feels that way. I don't think she really feels that way, honestly.
Well, I don't know. I guess if she had integrity, she wouldn't say stuff like that. But, yeah, I think you're absolutely right. It is the political apparatus that allows that to happen. But it's still outrageous, especially because these aren't people who live here. They don't pay taxes in D.C. How many of those people camping out in the park actually pay District of Columbia taxes? I would bet right around zero.
But they're certainly costing us money. There's no doubt about that.
Around there in my park. That's my view.
Yeah. Just because you Grinches don't find equality festive for the season.
Equality? A bunch of political tourists show up in our city and relieve themselves in the park, and we're supposed to think that's like
isn't it a beautiful exercise of democracy?
Get the fire hose. That's my view.
Tucker, I want to ask you about the continual onslaught of presidential and politician daughters that we are forced to deal with. Chelsea Clinton is on NBC now as the Make a Difference reporter. And
is that really her title?
Something. It's basically that.
Okay.
If I'm paraphrasing, it's not by much. And she gets a horrendous review in the Washington Post today, called perhaps the most boring person of her generation. Well, we got McCain's daughter, we got the Huntsman daughters, we've got her, we've got Jenna Bush is on one of the Today shows. And
one of the Bush daughters is smart enough to stay out of the spotlight. Yeah.
When can we just stop with this?
Well, I've reached a daughter saturation point. I agree. I have 3 of them. And if I were ever to go into politics, my first stipulation would be, my gosh, please, keep your heads down.
Oh, and the Palin daughters. Who can forget them? Sorry.
Oh, gosh, the most appalling of all. I couldn't absolutely agree more. And let me just make a macro point that the fact the Washington Post wrote that this morning suggests that maybe they're not going to go out of business. The Post problem is it's the most boring paper ever.
Yeah.
And reviews like that, I don't know, that's good news as far as I'm concerned. But you're right. There's something about politics that isn't good for children, and we see that on display a lot. Just, the children of politicians tend to be hurting people, a lot of them.
Well, what do you think? What do you think about Newt and Mitt Romney exchanging sort of barbs yesterday?
I think Newt is going to be the nominee. I can't believe I'm saying that. I really can't. But he has outmaneuvered Romney so thoroughly at every point that I stand back in awe. I think Newt is a much better campaigner than he is, a governor. I think he's better at campaigning than he is at governing. But I think with this compressed schedule, I mean, we're just weeks away. We're a couple weeks away from Iowa.
Has he outmaneuvered him, or is it just the fact that Romney had a saturation point and he hit it a long time ago and he can't get
I think part of it is a lot of conservatives just don't want to vote for Romney, but Newt's task was to convince them that he's more conservative than Romney, which is probably not true.
Yep.
I mean, Romney, for all his many faults and many heresies, didn't push through the prescription drug benefit, and Newt was central to getting that, largest expansion of the welfare state in my lifetime. So he somehow convinced conservatives and Tea Party folks that he is more conservative, which is amazing. It's amazing to me. He's a great salesman, for sure.
Does Mitt Romney have time or inclination to make a strategy change, or could his money in Iowa and airing some TV ads about Newt Gingrich's various apostasies make a difference?
Well, it seems to me the only way you're going to beat Newt is just the nuclear option. You just have to. The Romney people keep saying through intermediaries, you should see our oppo on Newt. We've got it. We've got a lot of, we're ready to drop the bomb. Okay, well, you better get the plane in the sky and the bomb doors ready to open, because it's getting really late here.
Well, his attack yesterday started out with, "Boy, I sure do, Brian." When he was asked about the payday and Freddie, do you think you should return the money? "Boy, I sure wish you would."
I mean, the part of the problem is that people feel they know Newt, and they remember him from, 16, 17 years ago, and in their minds, they associate him with conservatism. Whether or not that's actually true is another question, but he has already been defined in the minds of most voters, certainly in the minds of most Republican voters and primary voters. And so it's really hard to redefine someone. If you think you know who a person is, it's really hard. It's a huge step to rethink that.
Someone else. On that point, I mean, I covered him back when he was Speaker of the House, and the line on Newt was he has a million good ideas every day, or a million ideas every day, and only a few of them are good ideas, and he needs somebody to sort of say, "No, Mr. Speaker, that's not a good idea," and "Mr. Speaker, yeah, maybe that is a good idea." He needs somebody to sort of bounce things off and sort of act as a sounding board, but he seems to have gotten better about that, in my estimation.
Well, he's certainly gotten better about filtering what he says out loud.
Yeah.
Definitely. But, it's so interesting to me. All these conservatives who have known him for 20 years, 25, 30 years, have come out in the last month and said, "Holy smokes, whatever you do, don't vote for this guy. He's a terrible leader. He is not conservative," et cetera, et cetera. And they've given specific examples to back up their positions. And they've been totally ignored by the grassroots.
That's true.
In the Republican Party. If that stuff doesn't work, I don't see how you stop Newt Gingrich.
All right.
All right. Thanks, Tucker.
Thanks so much.
Appreciate it.